Hey everyone, it's Brian here, and in today's lesson, we'll be taking a look at the ethnic diversity and population features of Latin America. There is simply no way to do justice to the extraordinary cultural diversity which constitutes Latin America. As we continue our study, we'll try to pick up as many examples as possible, but just to give you the smallest hint of this diversity, composed of over 700 islets, reefs, and keys, the islands of the Caribbean have become startlingly diverse over the last several hundred years. Though many native peoples were wiped out in the conquest and genocide of European conquistadors, there are still pockets of indigenous Taino, Lucayan, and Carib descendants in Cuba and Puerto Rico. The island of Hispaniola is shared by the countries of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Haiti's descendants are largely from African slaves, who overthrew the French government in 1804 and created their own republic. Everything in Haiti is a mix of African and French cultures, including their language called Haitian Creole. On the other side of the island, the Dominican Republic is where Christopher Columbus landed and established the city of Santo Domingo. This country, with a heavy Spanish influence, is also the fastest growing economy in the Western Hemisphere. Other examples of diversity include the Bahamas, which, as a British protectorate, consequently has a very British feel in its uniforms, road signs, architecture, and customs. In contrast, a revolution in the island country of Cuba in 1959 created a communist state and sometimes adversary of the United States and others to this day. Due to this conflict, Cuba still has limited access to many imports, including cars. This means that many Cubans have kept their late 1950s cars on the road since the revolution. Examples of diversity from South America include the African culture in Bahia, Brazil. Bahia is considered the beating heart of Afro-Brazilian culture, where a blend of Catholicism and African pantheism have created a religion called Candomblé, with more than 1,000 temples in the area. Additionally, capoeira, a martial arts form set to a beat, was also devised by African-Brazilian transplants in the 16th century. Because Africans were forbidden to train for defense, they set the training to music, thus fooling their keepers and developing a completely unique fighting technique in the process. Bahia is also distinctly African-influenced in its seafood culture, an African-influenced variant of Portuguese. German culture is prevalent in Argentina and Mexico. Taking advantage of liberal relocation policies in Mexico from the late 1800s through the 1940s, Germans immigrated to Mexico by the thousands. Today, more than 1.2 million Mexicans identify as partially of German descent. The cultural influences are profound and can be seen in many places. One example is in beer brewing. Dos Equis beer is brewed by Cuauhtémoc Moctezuma Brewery, founded in 1890 by Wilhelm Haas, a German immigrant. Another key example are the influences on various kinds of famous music from Mexico, such as Tejano, Norteño, Banda, and Ranchero. It is estimated that almost 2 million Germans emigrated to Argentina between 1850 and 1952. Many came for economic reasons. Some came as Germany began to change as a power in the late 1800s. And some, though a smaller number than most spy movies would have you believe, escaped from the fall of Nazi Germany post-1945. The cultural influence in Buenos Aires is obvious, as the European architecture has earned it the name the Paris of the Americas. Food, music, pace of life, and language are all part of the influence of Germans in Argentina as well. You can find an Asian cultural blend in Peru, where the Tucson Chinese culture in South America has evolved. In the late 1500s and mid-1800s, possibly up to 100,000 Asian men, at the time called coolies or low-wage workers, were taken from across East Asia and sent to work mines and farms in northern and western South America, and specifically Peru. These men entered into relationships with native Peruvian women, and by one estimate, almost 4.2 million Peruvians today have Chinese ancestry. Asian festivals celebrated on the streets of Peru, Chinese schools in major cities, and a heavy Chinese influence on the rice-based dishes of Peru are where these influences are felt today. As a geographer in training, you know by now that any study of people isn't just about the vast array of ethnic and cultural traditions, such as in Latin America, but also the important features of populations, which add a crucial layer of understanding to the study of any area. So, let's look at some examples with our always explanatory graph, the population pyramid. In Cuba's pyramid, its not very pyramidal shape points to some very interesting features. Let's start with a large number of older people in the diagram, demonstrating the fact that Cuba has the oldest population in the Americas, with 20% of the 11 million Cubans over the age of 60, which you can readily see in the pyramid. Why is that? Well, there are several factors at play. One is Cuba's famous universal healthcare system. Another is the low birth rate in Cuba, and still another is the immigration or outward movement of young people away from Cuba's stagnant economy. An aging population can often strain the workforce, as well as healthcare, and can prevent growth of new industry. On the opposite end of the scale, Bolivia has the fat pyramid shape, indicating a growing population. Indeed, the fertility rate or number of children on average that could be born to each mother during their lifetime is approaching 3, which is enough to outpace the death rate and grow the Bolivian population. In this country, the median age, or average age of a citizen, is 23, and unlike some other countries in Latin America, almost 88% of the population is comprised of Quechua and Aymara Native Americans. A young population can have dynamic growth in industry, but can also suffer sometimes from the lack of experience needed to grow new sectors of the economy. One of the least populated and most sparsely populated countries in Latin America, Belize is another example of a growing population, albeit with a very interesting twist. Take a look at the substantial dip among men and women in their early 20s. What explains this? Well, like with Cuba, many young people have left or emigrated out looking for economic opportunity in, among other places, the United States. The difference between Cuba's pyramid and Belize is the population size. With only a little over 400,000 people, even a smaller immigration can make a large difference in Belize's pyramid. Latin America's diversity can be seen throughout its various cultural groups, cultural traits such as food, music, and language, and we even have a small glimpse at the feel of a place by observing the ages and genders of its population. As we continue to explore Latin America, look for the impacts you saw here, both cultural and demographic. Until next time, keep exploring. Hey.